Hello, this is Lucas. Welcome to another CSS video. In this video, we are going to be going over margins. So, a margin in CSS is just used to create space around an element. So, I have an example made already. So, we have ourselves two divs. I added a bit of CSS. We just added a border. So, this is how it looks like. We have the two divs and a border around it. I added the border just so we can see how the margin works a bit better. So we can start off by adding a margin. Let's say we want to add a margin for this div. We just want to add a bit of a space here because it's too claustrophobic, right? We want to space it out a bit. So the way that we can do that is we have our first div here, the top one, and all we need to do is if we want to add a margin, we'll just do margin bottom, and then we can pick, let's say we'll just do 5 pixels, and then we can save that, go back to our page. Now you can see that there's a bit of a space. It adds a margin for this div, right? As in it pushes any other elements away from here. It just adds a bit of space, which looks way better. We can also do this for the left, so we can go margin, we can go left, we can add, let's do 10 pixels here. You can see we add a bit of space here, a bit of margin of 10 pixels. We can do the same thing with the top as well. Go margin top, we'll do 20 pixels, and then while we're here, we'll do margin right, and we can add another 20 pixels. So if we go back, you can see we add a margin at the top, at the right, and then we already added it on the left and the bottom. Now, this is fine the way we do this, but there is a shortcut that we can do to do all this on one line, and all we have to do is just margin, like this. Okay, and obviously semicolon. Now we add in the margin that we want. So we start off at the very top. So the very first number will be the top margin. So it's like clockwise. So we start at the top, then the right, bottom, and then left. So let's say we want to have ourselves a 30 pixel margin at the top. So we do 30 pixels, and on the right hand side, let's say we want to do also 30. Then let's say on the bottom we want to do 50, and then let's say on the left we want to do something like 10 pixels. And we save that, and we go back, and here you can see we have added the margin. So instead of writing out, margin top, bottom, left, right, we can have it all on the same line. Now if we want the sides, so the left and the right, to be the same margin, we only have to specify it once. So if we have only 3 numbers here, this will be the top, okay? This will be the sides, so the left and right, and then this will be the bottom. So now if you go back, you can see that the sides are the same, and then the top and the bottom we have specified as 30 and 10. And then the very last part is, let's say we have the top and the bottom, we want them to be the same, and then we want the sides to be the same, so we just have to specify 2 numbers now. And the way this works is, now this will be the margin for the top and the bottom, and then this will be the margin for the left and the right. So if we go back, see, there we go. So that's the left and the right, and then that's the top and bottom. And then if we just have one number, this will be a margin for all the sides, so top, bottom, left, and right. So if they all share the same margin, we just have to write it once, and yeah, it's 30. So that's the way margin works for now. We can also use auto, which is pretty cool. So what we can do is, if I write auto, right, in here, we save that, we go back. Firstly, you'll see that nothing happens. That's because what auto does is it centers our div or whatever we want to set the margin on. It will set those elements to be in the middle. Now, because this whole element takes up this whole width, it's already technically centered. So what we can do is, firstly, before we do this, I'm going to set the width. Let's say we set the width at 400 pixels. Now we go back. You can see now our div is only 400 in width. But now let's say we want to center this div. What we can do is, we can do margin auto, and this will center the div just like that, from the left and the right, while keeping its width that we have specified. So that's very useful to use. Instead of pixels, so we use like pixels, we can also use percentage. So we can have a margin of 50%, which 50%, if we use 50%, you can see that what 50% does is it will set a margin at 50% from our whole page. So it will set 50% from here, from there, from top and bottom. So yeah, so then the next part that I'm going to be going over is the inherit, which is pretty cool. So let's say that we have our margin here. I'm just going to set the margin at the moment. Let's just do 10 pixels, right? So let's say we have this right here. So we have our 10 pixels. Now let's say that we want to set a margin for one of these elements here. Alright, so our div here, our section 1, this div here, it has a margin of 10 pixels. Let's say we want to have any elements inside of our div to have the same value as our div. So what we can do is we can use the inherit. So firstly what I'm going to do is I'm going to create ourselves a class, and I'll do example 1, right? And now we'll just do a set CSS for that. So we'll do example 1. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do margin. Now if I want to have the same margin for this element as the same as this div, we could just do the same as we did before. So we've done 10 pixels, right? But let's say we don't want to do that. And way better way that we can do that is we can use the inherit. By using inherit, it will just get its parents element for it. So you can see that this H1 inherited the margin that this entire div had. Okay, so you can see that for section 1 we set the margin for 10 pixels, and then you can see here we have 10 pixel margin all around. But then because we inherited with this header, so that means we inherited the margin from this div, which is margin 10. So that means this element here will have the same margin as our entire div. So that's about it for margins. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.